So I'm going to run through protein in this quick presentation. It's the nutrient that everyone always has a fuck ton of questions about. So hopefully I'll be able to answer a lot of them in this and give you a better head on your shoulders when it comes to understanding protein and then getting it in. But first we'll cover understanding protein. Okay? I can never use the arrow keys here that work. So what's the point? What's the point of even bothering with protein in the first place? Because it doesn't directly help fat loss, but it will indirectly help you. Okay? And it will help you keep it off at the same time. Does this by helping you maintain muscle while weight is lost, as well as keeping you full. So those are the two main ways it can help. So if anyone asks, like, oh, how does protein help with your fat loss? It helps indirectly through allowing you to maintain muscle, and it keeps you full, makes your diet easier. Now you might be wondering there, what's the point of maintaining muscle? And I'll go into that now in a bit more detail. So why you should be trying to build muscle, even if that's not your goal, even if you don't give a fuck about adding on muscle, it is something you should be concerned about, if not for general health, for fat loss. Okay, so you will look and feel far better while losing weight. The reason for this is that everyone's on about, oh, I want to get toned, I want to look better. People often care about weight loss because of the benefits that it will bring. One of the benefits, obviously, being lighter, they might be able to perform better, things like that. If they're playing sports, they might feel lighter on their feet. Another one of the benefits is that they look better and feel more confident. This is not directly tied to weight, it's tied to how close your muscle is to your skin. Okay? So a lot of people's confidence, it sounds really strange, but a lot of our confidence is based in terms of how we look. Our appearance, vanity, is based on how close our muscle is to our skin. If you have more muscle, you will look more toned, as people say it. Your muscle will be closer to your skin. If you maintain and build this muscle while you are losing body fat, you are further helping your muscle get closer to your skin, and you'll have that toned look that the vast majority of people are looking to achieve when they're losing body fat. Hopefully that makes sense. So it is possible to lose weight and still have a relative high amount of body fat percentage because you've lost muscle at the same time. Losing muscle is normal. As you've seen in the calorie slide, losing muscle is normal when you lose weight. So it's worth trying to prevent muscle loss and actually build some when you're in a calorie deficit. You'll improve your potential for strength gain. That's a big one. You'll be able to lift more things, throw more things across the room. If you have a tantrum, you'll live longer. There's evidence to show if you're stronger, if you have more muscle, you'll live longer. Maintaining a higher body weight may be more realistic as well. So a lot of people try and look a certain way or achieve a certain look, and they keep dieting down and they keep trying to lose weight in the scales until they get to that point, and it can become very unrealistic and very tiresome, and they'll find they might end up in some sort of diet cycle where they're, they've gotten down to 80 kilos, but they're not the way they want to look, so they want to get down to 70. 80 might have been more realistic for them, just to stay at that point. And they might find it easier to stay at that point and be more confident with how they look if they added on 10 kilos of muscle and then went to 80. Okay, because again, muscle being closer to skin. Alright. Other ways then it will help you. 30% of the calories consumed from protein are used to digest it. Okay, so this is moving back to protein now. So it burns calories when you actually, when you eat protein, you're burning more calories in comparison to other macronutrients like carbs and fats. You're talking 5 and 10%. Protein is 30%. Doesn't negate the calories you consume, obviously, but 30% is quite a lot. So it's hard to digest in a good way. It makes dieting easier by keeping you fuller. That's kind of linked with the idea that it's harder for you to digest it. And you'll improve recovery from exercise. To be able to get back in the training wagon a bit sooner. So protein intake recommendations, this is the one that people tend to have the most questions on. So here's what's optimal. I will recommend something slightly different to everyone, but here's what's optimal: 1.6 grams per kilo body weight. Now I don't always recommend that because it can be very unrealistic. It's like telling someone, you should be learning to do a backflip if you're trying to increase fitness, but it's not realistic for everyone. It's not realistic for everyone to start learning that straight away. So start with where you're at. A minimum of 0.75 grams per kilogram if doing nothing. That's the RDA, the government recommendations. They're not great, and I'm pretty sure they're actually looking into changing that at the moment. They're very low, and there's plenty of evidence to support a higher intake even if you're not resistance training. But 1.6 is optimal. It doesn't mean if you go above that, it's unhealthy. That's not the case at all. You may even benefit slightly from going above it. It's probably a waste of your time. If you get to 1.6, you're sound. Start in between. This is my recommendation. Start in between and work your way up towards 1.6 grams per kilo. I know it's a bit vague, but it's the best answer that I can give. If you can start at 1 gram per kilo, great. And then if I can see your diet and it's a 1 gram per kilo protein diet, and I look at that and be like, right, this is how you might bring it up to 1.4 grams per kilo. At that point, you might be very full, you might be enjoying how you're eating, and if you add in more protein, it might reduce the quality of your day-to-day life because you're making your meals less tasty. You're putting too much chicken in your meals. There is ways you can get around that though. There's tips and tricks you can use to increase your protein. I do believe 1.6 grams per kilo is realistic for everyone. It just does take a bit of work initially because it is quite the change for some people. So protein source considerations, these will help. So it's handy to know that there are 4 calories in a gram of protein. Look for sources then that have a lot of protein per calorie amount. Peanut butter, for example, is not one of those sources. Chicken is. Okay, chicken has a lot of protein per calorie amount, so low calories, a lot of protein. Consider supplementing with protein powder to make life easier. So let's say you were that person that had like 1.4 grams per kilo of body weight in terms of protein intake, and you're trying to get the extra bit to hit your goal. Using protein powder would be a very good idea then, just to have a shake to bring it up to that point. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. It's healthy, it's just derived from milk. This is something you can have 2 scoops a day if you want. It's just not everyone enjoys the flavour, so that's one of the bigger issues around that. Also, thought I'd finish it with this, just to throw a bit of shite. Nuts are a terrible source of protein. Okay, they're a shite source of protein. As I said there, they have a lot of calories per protein amount, and while people will say nuts are a source of protein, they technically are, but so would vegetables be then in that sense. You need to eat a lot of vegetables to get in a decent serving of protein, and likewise, you need to consume not necessarily a lot of peanut butter, but calorie-wise, you need to consume a lot, like potentially close to the full tub you get, the regular size tub, to get the same amount that you might get in a chicken breast. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but in comparison to a chicken breast, you have to consume a lot more calories from peanut butter. And if you're trying to stay in a calorie deficit, that is going to be inconvenient for you. So vegetables, they do contain protein, but you need to eat a shit ton to get in a decent serving of protein, and it's not going to be realistic for you to do that. Your digestive system will be in bits, and you'll be shitting for days. Some protein bars then are bad sources. The reason for this is that some of them will say, like, oh, this bar has 30% protein, but the bar might weigh very light, and 30% protein might only be 5 grams of protein. And some of the calories in protein bars are the same, but in regular chocolate bars anyways. But in addition to this, some bars will contain collagen as their main source of protein, so just make sure to check in the ingredients and see if it says collagen or beef hydrolysate. I think that's what it's called. Because if that's up high in the list of ingredients, it means that roughly half the amount of protein that's in the bar is useless in relation to building muscle. That's the protein involved in your skin, hair and nails, which is still needed, mind you, but not in a protein bar with the purpose of maintaining and building muscle.